There we go. We can start
Um,
our podcast because Michelle has her background ready. Michelle has her lipstick.
I
She has
do.
her prayer shawl. She has her
No,
Christmas tree.
you know what I don't have?
Uh-oh.
My computer glasses.
Oh.
So I'm gonna try to, see
I
you
thought
all in
I
spite
thought
of
you were going
that.
to say patience for you all, but
Well, there's that.
Rob, is that Mount Rainier?
that is, yeah, yeah. Well, she was changing hers. I decided that my room is a little too messy, and
Okay.
I'm just going to go ahead and go with the Seattle from the north, from the northwest side of Seattle, looking back at the city.
That's
That's
cool.
nice.
Okay.
It helps, Rob, that you're bald because the like background changer knows exactly what to do with it.
Yes,
Michelle's hair is kind of floating like Darth Vader right
yeah, yeah. If I put a hat on, it gets all weird.
Great.
now. Michelle,
That's not what I wanted to hear.
you ever think about shaving your head?
No, I can honestly say that is not something I have ever considered.
All right.
You know, now that you bring that up, I deserve Mentor of the Year award because I have mentored Malcolm right into no hair. Not only am I prepping him to be a good student pastor and to be honest church staff, but he on his own came to me and said, I'm shaving my head.
Welcome to Second Take at Eastlake, a podcast of Eastlake Community Church in Irmo, South Carolina. You are invited to join us any Sunday at 9 or 11.
Okay. It
That's
needs to
amazing.
stop with Malcolm because Natalia nor Hannah Grace need to go bald.
That's valid. That's valid. That's valid.
That would be
Just
bad.
saying. Yeah, that would be bad.
Oh, man. All right, everybody. So we're in a sermon series right now. It's Christmas time. The series is called Breaking News. And this last week, Rob was up teaching and bringing in some really good insight. And what was the title of this sermon? Did you have a title, Rob?
I just stole what Ray put on the BID, breaking news, the birth of John the Baptist. Sometimes I get cute. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? There's no reason to change that.
The birth of John the Baptist. Yeah,
That
that's
was
cool.
good enough, man.
But it's cool because this idea of breaking news happens to us all the time. And when we say breaking news, we mean like we're going about our way and then something immediately takes a hard left, hard right. I mean, I've said it on here a lot of times, but like we are shock absorbers. When you wake up in the day, we absorb shock. We have no idea what each day is going to bring. And the breaking news, I mean, that the Messiah is going to be born, like all these cool things. Sometimes it's good news, sometimes it's bad news. Rob shared some really neat good ones. But I thought it'd be fun to kind of get us kicked off here on like, what is one of your breaking news? Like, what is a news that has broken in your life that you feel comfortable sharing? I mean, Rob shared a little bit on Sunday with his story with Jacob's adoption, and and please share more. But like, I'm curious for you guys, is there anyone, some you might not want to share, but one that stands out that you're like, man, this was something that rocked my world. Good, bad, anything.
Today's breaking news this morning when I got out of bed was all of a sudden my right hip started to hurt. I'm like,
Oh,
what?
Uh-oh.
oh no, not another one, Ray.
I'm hoping not. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping, I'm hoping everything but that.
Full bionic ray. I can't even live with a full bionic ray.
Wow, double
You're
hit.
doing all the stretches.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this morning's breaking news was that my house is not holding temp. And even though the heating unit is running, things are not coming through the air vents.
Oh, she's blowing cold air.
No, it's just not blowing at all.
Oh,
So whatever warmth there is falling down from the vents, and that doesn't happen too well because hot air rises. So, so I had to reach out to my heating and air guy. But this is better breaking news than Sunday morning when my pool was overflowing and I couldn't get my pump to turn on to take the water out. So Yeah.
Man,
A lot of breaking.
you guys got some terrible breaking news.
I was trying to think of a good one. I mean, I could go into the big old adoption story, but that's way back. But my knees kept me moving forward. That's breaking news.
That's good. Today is our daughter Mandy's 17th birthday.
That
That's
is
exciting.
great breaking news.
Happy birthday, Mandy.
Yeah. It's also really exciting too, because that means technically we're only responsible for a child for one more year. I mean, technically, I know it doesn't really work that way, but I mean,
Yeah.
legally,
The
technically,
cops can't do anything after this year, is what you're saying.
yeah. Yeah, this is on you, Mandy. Whatever you want, whatever you do to yourself. But yeah, that's our big news. I think for me, one of the things that in my life, like that really changed things was whenever I became a Christian, whenever I started following Christ, pre Jesus, I was very shy, very timid. I mean, I was picked on. I was definitely like the nerdy kid, and didn't really have anything that I looked forward to or anything. I mean, honestly, it was pretty lame. And I met Christ, and the biggest part of that was that I also met Christ followers, and I started to have friends in a youth group. I started to have mentors in my life, disciple makers, and it literally changed the trajectory of my life.
Mm-hmm.
The way, and somebody invited me to a summer camp, and that was really the first introduction I had into stuff like that. Although I grew up in the church, that was like my first introduction into like church community, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
Also, so that was like, I don't know that that's breaking news, but that was like a pivotal change for me that still to this day, that was a big one. I'm going positive because Ray and Michelle both went negative, so um you know also, by the way, did you know you can Google what is today's good news? I've Googled that a few times. You guys should check that out. What is the good news today? Instead of like looking up the news, Google what today's good news is. So very cool
There's
stuff.
a whole news site that's all good news.
I saw that. I love
It's
it.
amazing.
I'm
That's
gonna
really good.
bookmark that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Well, because Phil, you bring up a point. I mean, it's kind of funny to me that it's hard for us to figure out what the breaking news is. We're all locked up right now, and it's because by its nature, breaking news is surprising. And
Yeah.
so there can literally be days. This is something that I was thinking of as I was preparing my message. There can literally be days where there's no big thing to break, no big news. God doesn't, break in and give you some big aha moment every single day of your life.
Yeah.
But the news is slowly breaking around us, even in the silence. That was the point of the adoption story that I shared, is that unbeknownst to us, in the state of Maryland, hundreds of miles away from where we were sitting, there was a mother contemplating us as the parents of her child. And we didn't know. All we knew was we were in an adoption process, and that we expected something was always happening, but we never knew the details of it, except for when we did. And usually that was like months of kind of conversations and figuring it out.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is the way God was always working in that 6 months of quote unquote silence. And then all of a sudden on the 6th of December, God announced it to us. And for me, as I think about that, it's not surprising that sometimes it's hard to put our fingers on today, this big thing happened.
Yeah.
Because God is so at work in the background.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought of that when we were in teaching team, kind of talking about this a little bit, but the reality is sometimes the breaking news is that there is no news.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Sometimes it's just that your heater comes on.
Yeah. The breaking news is the car worked today. Your
car started.
I got back to the office this afternoon and I said to Monica and Sue, so has anything really exciting happened since I was gone?
Yeah.
They're like, nope, pretty boring. I'm like, boring is good.
Boring is good.
Really okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think this time of year, everything speeds up and slows down equally. So it's not that we're just sitting at home doing nothing. but we're also busy doing things that there's not a lot of time for meetings or whatever. Everybody's kind of handling themselves and they have their own races they're running. It feels that way to me, at least.
Mm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Interesting.
Right,
Well,
right.
are you guys just completely off the subject? I meant to ask this first. Maybe I'll edit it in. But do you guys have any fun Christmas plans? I feel like our listeners would think that was interesting. Anything that you're doing that you're looking forward to for Christmas? I mean, it's basically here.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gathering with family that are traveling in to meet with Sherlin and I.
That's so
Nice.
cool.
Awesome.
So we won't have all the kids, but we'll have a lot of the kids.
A lot of them.
That's cool.
Wow.
We're staying here until Christmas morning. And then this is our new tradition because our kids like to do Christmas here in our house. And then as soon as we get up and probably about 9 or 10 in the morning with no hurry or anything, we'll drive over to Kentucky and we'll be there until the following Saturday. So like we're just kind of, but the reason we're not going, the reason we're not going is my daughter goes, we can't do our family traditions if we're around Bonbon and Granddaddy because they have different traditions. And so I'm really excited that our daughter wants to stay here so that
Do
we can
your
watch the
traditions.
right movies on Christmas Eve, eat the right food, and then go and have an amazing, incredible week with them. But we get to do kind of the quiet stay at home stuff that weekend and then get out of here.
That'll be cool. I like that.
Yeah.
And there's no traffic on Christmas Day if you're
Yeah.
traveling long distances, by the way.
Right.
So
Right.
it's the day to travel.
And everybody's friendly.
Yeah.
Or they
They are.
better be.
They
Yeah.
weren't-
They
they haven't
ought to be.
Years.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm a little late figuring out what exactly the holiday is going to look like. I got my list of invited things from the extended family. And so I'm going to sit down and figure out what things I want to do in and around those. And I've got to do that this week. It's just been a very full couple of weeks. And I was sick twice since Thanksgiving or, since Thanksgiving week. So that slowed me down a little bit on my normal things.
Yeah.
But Christmas itself is going to be fairly quiet because my family was in for Thanksgiving and they're going to Michigan at my sister's. So I know we'll FaceTime them up there and get to see them and my nieces. But we will stay here. And so it's really okay. Once I'm prepared for the fact that it's going to be a little bit quiet, then I plan things that make that quiet time special. So it will be a quiet, reflective Christmas. I hope to build lots of fires. I might have to with the heating problem I'm having.
So you might need to build fires.
Yeah.
Yeah. Build some
Philip,
fire.
yeah, if I run out of firewood, I'm coming to see you.
Yeah, I have a lot, a whole lot. And
Yeah.
if not, we'll just chop a tree down, make it happen.
Okay.
Yeah. That's funny you say that because our plan, my big goal, like I know my favorite part of the Christmas break is just keeping the fireplace going. It's usually
Yeah.
cold enough. Now watch it be hot, and that's okay if it is, but it's literally just my one job is to keep the fireplace going from morning until night and do a little cooking or whatever we do in between. We play games, do puzzles, little
You
Catan.
DoorDash, you DoorDash
Bazookies.
DoorDash
Pizookies.
Pizookies.
That's what you're gonna do.
We'll do that. We'll DoorDash some Pizookies, but it's like,
Salted caramel Bazookies.
oh my gosh, don't get me started. I need dessert now. I
Breaking news.
cannot do dessert at lunchtime ever. Don't ever let me eat dessert at lunch again. It ruins my whole day because then I get sleepy. I crash.
Oh, okay.
I'm dead. It drops me. I can only have dessert at dinner and then I'll crash and go to bed for the night. But anyways, that's cool. So yeah, so there's no crazy breaking news yet this Christmas season from any of you guys. Nobody's pregnant or anything. Perfect.
Well, y'all can't get pregnant, and technically neither can I.
Well, neither could
Look
Zechariah.
at that.
So
We have something in common.
Yeah, Zechariah and Elizabeth couldn't get pregnant either. And we just did
Yeah, well, they were
we
at least married.
just did
And
2 weeks on their pregnancy. So
no, you did. Yeah, we're done with that. I'm moving on this week.
oh man, Michelle could be with child. Anyways, okay.
No, don't say that out loud. Do you know that's how rumors get started? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I'm just glad I get to pick on Michelle a little bit because her mom might that way See, Michelle knows that I love her because I do pick on her every once in a while. As
Yeah.
long as it's a healthy picking on it, you know.
Well, and my mom's been worried that
She's been
everything
worried
was
because I haven't
okay.
been picking on you.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
she's
let her know.
worried everything's okay in your world.
Tell her to tune in. Everything's all right. We're back friends again. Yeah. So
Ah,
one of the things that was really funny, not funny, sorry, that was funny what I just said, but it was interesting to me, Rob, when you were teaching, because I never really thought of this, but after Zechariah has been struck mute, um, for basically a lack of faith or questioning God, or however we want to say that. And then when John is born, he can speak again, right?
Well,
mhm.
he can speak again after he's faithful, because he had another moment where he could have screwed it up. Where when Elizabeth, who had also, we skipped this, had also been visited by, also had some premonition, had been told information as well, said his name is John.
That's right.
Um, actually Ray covered that. So that kind of came out of Ray's in between times between Ray and me. Um, she said his name is John. If Zechariah had decided to write a different name down, he'd be quiet all the way to the end of his life, because God would have been like, man, you just aren't getting it. But it's cool because as soon as he was faithful, as soon as he followed through and took the step, God immediately opened his mouth. And I love what he did with it. Instead of complaining about the last 9 months,
Which is what we would have done.
God for his faithfulness.
Yeah, say that again in case I cut you off.
Instead of complaining about the last 9 months of silence, which I'll say more on that later if I want a funny thing on that. But he immediately began to praise God.
Yep.
And when I don't get my way, I don't know that I immediately praise God every time God shows up after that.
Mm-hmm.
Want to, but I probably don't.
Yeah.
Mm.
Same. I don't think I would either. I feel like if I had been mute and then all of a sudden I can speak, my first words would be, I mean, who knows? But yeah, it is interesting.
That
Yeah, it's almost like he had enough time to reflect, and by the time he could speak, his thoughts and priorities were where they needed to be.
Mm.
Man, which is really interesting. So on the whole idea of him being silenced, sometimes we get silenced too, you know. Sometimes it might not be that we can't speak, but sometimes we just kind of get removed from things, or we get asked to be quiet or anything. How does that play out? I mean, you guys notice that, or has that ever happened to you? Or do you
You know,
see that happening to other people?
a pattern that I see is that God often tells us not to defend ourselves.
Mm,
That He
true.
wants to be our defender.
Amen.
And so I have seen, He has told me, you don't need to speak into that. You can just be quiet. And there are some people whose teaching I really value, who have been in situations where they have been, attacked on their character and things like that. And God has said, no, you're not going to address that. Now, in the end, I believe that they were justified, shown to be fine, all those things. But sometimes it took years and years and years. They might have wondered if they would ever get to the
Mhm,
other side of that. And so
mhm.
it's kind of like, Jesus didn't answer back. And yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good. I'll just say this because of something you said I wasn't going to share, but in my last role, and I've shared about this publicly without crossing lines, in my last church, there was a season where I came under attack by some other leaders in the church, and there were lies told about me, and God told me to sit down and be quiet
Mm.
and let it play out. And actually, I've got lifelong friends because I listened to God on that, because there were people that
Mhm.
were dragged into that believed some untruths about me, that if I had ever launched at, which, from a human perspective, I had every right to, human perspective, um,
Mhm.
we never would have been able to recover those relationships,
Mhm.
because God was like, don't. And again, this is not here. This was thousands of miles away. And I have lifelong friends because I was in a season where God said, based on what you just said, Michelle, do not defend yourself. I've got this.
Mhm.
Do not defend yourself. That's hard.
Woo!
Yes, that is hard.
There are times also when the Lord will show us things that we can't speak on.
Mm. Mhm.
You know, there are times as a shepherd of people, there can get to a point to where you can't counsel anymore. You can't talk anymore. And it's like, okay, God, I hear you. And you just have to let them get to the end of themselves or hit the bottom of the barrel or get into a place where they will listen again. And those are difficult times, but those are, I mean, Philip, you asked, and there are times when it happens, even as being a parent, especially a parent of older children or adult children. You only can do so much. You only can
Mhm.
talk so much. And then there's a time you just be quiet and
Mhm.
let them come to themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
Good.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a lot of seasons in my life where things have just been silent, and those are sometimes the hardest seasons but typically coming out of them better,
Mhm.
stronger. But in the midst of it, there's a lot of why and a lot of silence from God, honestly. Um, so I don't know. I just feel like some of our listeners might be in that season, and it would just be good to know that you're not alone. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
you're broken. It means that
Right.
maybe God is, you know, maybe, God is showing you something. Maybe you've asked for, maybe you've prayed for something, and this is his way of showing it to you.
Mhm.
Like, it's a lot of times the way that God will show himself or will answer prayer is not the way I thought he would answer a prayer,
No kidding.
right? God, please send me a boat, and maybe he sends you something different that's better than a boat, but it's all we could think of was a boat. I need a boat, I need a life
You know,
raft.
this jumps back just a little bit, but it plays into your question, Philip. When Gabriel came to Zechariah, after he told him, "Do not be afraid," he says, "Your prayers have been heard."
Yeah.
And so at that point, whatever we've been praying about,
Yeah.
we need to be quiet because he sent somebody to tell you that your prayer has been heard. And then Gabriel goes on to tell him, here's the results of your prayers.
Mm,
And so there are times we just need to just shut up.
And Zechariah says, oh, but no.
yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
that's it. Shut up. Just
Yeah.
sit
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. So, and I love the characters in the Bible, the people in the Bible that I love that I think every single one of them has this higher calling that oftentimes they have to grow into or live
Mm.
into or discover. And it's like all the time we see people like, for instance, John the Baptist. I mean, he started off pretty crazy, ended up with a wild role in that, of baptizing Jesus. And I
Yeah.
say that to say, how often do we feel ordinary? And do we just look at our existing circumstances and lose sight of what God is actually building in us? Like what he's called us to, what he's created us for, and what he's building into us in the silence or in the
Mhm.
mute, in the, when we can't speak or when we've been shut up or whatever it may be, that he's not done with us. Actually, he's just building us up, And so I'm curious, did you guys ever question your call, or did you ever, was there ever a season that you just didn't know what God was doing, and then later on it got revealed? Oh, it's really clear. That's why God had me in that area of my life or whatever. can you relate to these people in the Bible?
Yeah, mine is not about questioning my call. Mine's about questioning how God got my call right, but was messing up the story in my call. Let me explain that. And it's actually something I've come to realize that without all of these parts of my journey, I am nowhere near the family pastor that I am today. And I'm not even what I want to be yet. But I'm nowhere near the level of effective family pastor I am. If we had kids on my time frame, I would have no idea how to relate to people that are wrestling with having children. If we had not adopted a child, I would never know. These are real things I've come to terms with. I would never know what it was like to go through the adoption process and to have to hold somebody's hand, which I would have had to do.
Yep.
I mean, I would have had to do it. I would have never known what it was like to watch my wife, and then God brought us June through a biological pregnancy. God knew that I also needed to know what it was like to be in a home with a pregnant woman. I mean, these are all real things we've come to terms with. All of these things that seemed like, what are you doing? And I shared a little bit of it from stage, created longevity and opportunity for me to have real empathy with people, because I'm like, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And before it would have just been, I wonder what that would have been like.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as much as I really didn't love some of the moments, I am grateful for every one of them. Because, I mean, I said this and I hope it came across the right way, but the reality is I want to have the ability to reach into the school systems in a way that is effective as long as possible.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm going to be a father of a student in the school district until I'm 60, not the grandfather, the father, for 59 to be technical. That's God actually understanding that I didn't need anyone to help me look cool in 20s and 30s. It was normal that I would be hanging around doing what I was offering to the schools back then. But now it's like, oh, now you're 55 or 60. You're here because your daughter's here. And I look at the access that God gave me this past 2 years with Jacob. And I'm like, what I thought was wasted time, this is my point. What I thought was wasted time was preparing me for more longevity.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. I see it. I definitely see it. What about you
Rob,
guys?
listening to you, it made me think of the song by Brandon Lake. We haven't done it in a long time, but the song Miracles, because it's like it doesn't add up. And all I know is that it comes from above. And so, yeah, I didn't see myself where I'm at right now. I mean, yeah, I remember my call. I remember where it came. I was in an extended stay hotel during a men's retreat, but I didn't see all of this coming from it. And it's been interesting. I can't say that it was scary. I just think it's just been interesting that when I say yes to this, then this happens. And I'm like, okay. And then the next thing is like I meet this group of people. So now these people are my family. And it's like, oh, okay. And before long, you end up in a place that you're like, how did I end up here? And it's like, gotta write a book.
Gotta write a book. Yeah. I saw, so whenever I first started leading worship, I got a lot of opportunities to lead in different places. And on Sunday morning, I was at a Baptist church with people back before it was okay, socially acceptable to do contemporary worship in a church. So they made us meet at 7 in the morning for the contemporary service because it's not going to affect anybody at 7 in the morning. But it was older people, honestly, even at 7 in the morning.
They were trying to kill it.
They were trying to kill it, and
Yeah.
it kept being successful. But
Yeah.
older people, I'm an old person now, so older people on Sunday mornings. Monday night, I was leading worship for college students. Wednesday night, I was leading worship for a high school group in Dallas. Thursday night, I was leading worship for a college group. Friday and Saturday, I was leading worship at rallies, conferences, camps, and retreats. Every night of the week was a different category or different life stage. And I didn't realize what God was doing, but later on it was like he was training me in how to lead different groups of people, how to, think bigger than the songs you're singing. And like he really was raising me up. But it was like man, God, what are you doing? This is insane.
Hmm.
And same thing, the way I feel about like having being born in New Mexico and, going to school in Texas, living in the South in Alabama, going to California, South Carolina, and then now he's got me
Hmm.
in a multicultural church, multi-ethnic, multicultural, and it's like it's really helpful to have been around all different types of people,
Hmm.
and now serving in a church like Eastlake. So it's like I did not enjoy having to live in so many places, but I'm grateful that it's kind of taught me about all kinds of people, and none of us are the same.
Hmm.
We're all different. We all have different reasons that we do what we do. What about you, Michelle? Does God do anything in your life?
Yeah, like nonstop. He's always doing things in my life. But, I think um, I had a call on my life early on, like before I had children, but I didn't really know what that was going to be. Like, what is this? Is it even a vocational call? Because I believe God calls all people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of waiting to see. I mean, I could have just been in church leadership, or didn't want to place expectations on God. And then for him to take me away from home, through a divorce, raising children on my own, I mean, none of that makes sense to me in the story. And then go into the pastorate, that just does not add up to me. But at the same time, one of the things that I feel is really unique about being a woman pastor, just our ladies feel really heard. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really understand that until they started expressing it to me, like that I'm giving voice to some of the things that they feel, that they can relate to me. And divorce is better than 50% of the marriages end in divorce. So to be able to even relate in that way brings so much comfort. And that's just surprising that
Mm-hmm.
God would take all those things, all that breaking news that was really negative in my mind,
Mhm.
and God has really changed it and is using for his purposes. Praise God, redeeming it. So it's neat to see how God works. I just had coffee with somebody whose kids are younger than mine, and she was asking what my kids are doing, and I'm relating to her what they're doing. And she said, that gives me so much hope for my own kids who are still, at the end of their high school career. And she's a single mom. And so that's cool. I'm grateful for anything that I can do to be an encouragement to anyone.
Mm, that's good. So for our people who are listening at home, you might be thinking, man, this is a really difficult season I'm in right now. Or
Mhm.
I wouldn't have done it this way. Or I just received news that I don't like. And let all of our stories be an encouragement to you. And I'm sure if you look at your life, you have them too, whoever you are out there listening. But I wrote this in my notes. I can't remember if it was Sunday or today, but it said out of that Ephesians 2 passage that you read, you were created for something greater than what you're encountering today.
Hmm.
Amen.
I don't remember why I wrote that, Rob. You might know why I wrote that because you preached it, but
Yeah, I do remember our conversation earlier today. I don't know when you wrote it, but about Ephesians and how that just ties so perfectly into this idea of what our breaking news is supposed to do to us and for
Mhm.
us. And
yeah.
the things I love about this rhythm of these four messages, well, five if we count. I don't know what we're doing with if we're going to use the same format in the end of the year one where we break the news about what God is doing next. But we have to respond to it, and our response should be to understand our identity. And our identity is, especially a Christian. So I'm speaking to a Christian now. So if you're not a Christian, just understand that this identity is out there for you, but it is
Mhm.
not you. Even though you're loved by God, you step into this full identity of Ephesians 2:10 of being a masterpiece with a task to accomplish when you're in Christ. Because the book of Ephesians is written to a group of believers, and he's reminding them, you are God's masterpiece, created to do more than you could ever imagine. And it was created by who? Not by your hard work. It was created by the creator that called you into that relationship with him.
Yeah.
So, but just hear me, that masterpiece is a work in progress. That is going to be worked on through our trials and tribulations. That's going to be worked on and refined through all that we do and experience.
Yep. Yeah, it's the process of being sanctified, to being made more Christ-like.
Right.
And every day when we wake up, you can see the things that happen to you that you wouldn't prefer as, something to bring you down, or it can be building blocks in your life. How am I going to react to this? How am I gonna, what is God trying to teach me through this tough situation, difficult conversation you have? What's that?
You get to choose your response, and that's what you get to choose.
Yeah.
If God chooses what He's got in store for you, you choose to respond to it.
Yeah. When it ties into that idea of being shock absorbers and where we're going to go with how do we allow the circumstances of life to form us, and in our response makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know. Go ahead, Ray.
That thought behind us being shock absorbers is so true. I mean, you get up in the morning, you get prepared, and we all have a ritual, whether you start your pot of coffee or you wash your face or whatever you do, and then you leave the house, prepared for the day, and then you run into traffic. Well, you got to absorb that shock, or else you're going to end up wherever you go having not dealt with that well. Or you get to the job and then you find out the internet's out. And so you got to absorb that. Or you find out that, you've been double booked, or somebody shows up, that you didn't account for, or the whole day, we are being shaped into the image of Christ. And it really depends on how we absorb whatever shocks come our way. Do we shoulder them? And do we end up finding ourselves feeling overloaded and depressed? Do we take them to the altar and leave them there, knowing that we only can do so much? We're only one person. Do we delegate well? I mean, it's a lot goes into the 24 hours of happenings that all of us deal with from day in and day out.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So the goal is to see these things as opportunities and don't be shocked by them. And the thing that gives me hope, at least, is that I know that God is on my side. I know that he wants what's best for us. And so it's like, even though I might not like it, it's kind of like, but I've seen you, God, and you've never done anything that hasn't been good in my life. So I'm going to just trust that this situation is going to turn out good as well, and that you're going to grow me through it. That's the beauty of being a Christian. We're shock absorbers with Christ. We can absorb it because we know that Christ has the final, outcome, and he knows what he's doing. Even if he's allowing a hardship in our life, like being mute, like Zechariah, but like whatever it is, like Christ wants the best for us. And so there's a hope in the midst of our absorbing shock. There's a hope in the midst of, it's not a depressing day to wake up as a Christian and know that things are going to be tough. It's actually a hopeful day to know that things are going to be tough, but in spite of it, we're good. Like we're going to be okay. And
that may be, it might be why Paul said, count it all joy, Philip.
Count it all joy. Yes.
That's what you were just describing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's okay. It's okay that my heater didn't turn on this morning. Like I haven't starved yet. I'm alive. I'm not, I'm not an ice cube. I'm going to be okay. But God, what are you doing? I'm good.
It's scarier when that heater doesn't turn on in Vermont in February. Happened to me. Yes, you can trust God, but it's a scary day.
Yeah.
Philip, are you saying that when we have difficulty or a challenge, that there's an opportunity for God to do something amazing?
I'm just saying. Yeah, and
have a party.
Michelle's day has so much opportunity today. You know what? I mean, like she could meet her future husband.
Oh, here we go.
He could come fix the heater. Like here he comes. It's like Guy Fieri walking in the door. Like, would you like me to cook you some dinner and fix your heater? You never know, Michelle.
Yeah. Well, my heating and air guy is very married and very Muslim. So
Well, he might get the flu today and send in his protege. You never know, Michelle. You never
know.
You never know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Count it all joy.
Yeah. Yeah, Michelle. Yeah.
That's
Well,
good.
we're gonna have to wrap up the podcast a little bit earlier, but before we do, this is gonna take us a little bit of time. Let's talk about Christmas Eve services. When are we doing these? What times are they? I don't know. I'm planning on coming.
I'm gonna be there, but
It's
The
Friday.
Next Friday night,
the
Okay.
20
December 22nd at 6:30 p.m.
Yep.
That is the first one. Then,
Uno.
oh, right, that's right, Rob. Just one Friday night.
Yeah.
Then on Sunday, actual Christmas Eve, 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Well, wait, that's just like our regular Sunday services. Yes. So there's no need to get confused about anything. Well, are we
Mhm.
going to have a Sunday? Are we going to have a Christmas Eve night service? No.
It's a Friday night.
Friday night service.
Yeah.
Well, why aren't you guys having a Christmas Eve candlelight service on Christmas Eve? Because I love my staff.
Mm,
And I want to give them the same opportunity that you want to have with your family that have come in from out of town or that you may be traveling to be with out of town on Christmas Eve to spend it together.
Yeah.
And so we'll see you again
Yeah.
next Sunday.
But Ray, I heard 3 services, and there will be candlelight.
Oh yeah.
So
Right.
we are scratching that itch.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it will be.
Yeah.
There'll
And
be
I really
candlelight.
think the Friday one is a great one to invite friends to. I think I don't know if you've got somebody that God's, built you have a relationship with somebody, he's telling you to invite somebody. I really think the Friday one's cool
Friday
because
night.
it's the exact same as the Sunday morning, but a lot of people are, hesitant to go to church on a Sunday morning that don't go to church, but a Friday night they'll go to a Christmas Eve thing. Um,
Mhm.
and chances are most churches aren't doing Christmas Eve things on that Friday night. So it should be a wide open night for many people.
I just realized something we haven't said that we really need to say. So
What we need
each
to
one
say.
of those 3 services will be full family inclusive,
Yes.
including our Sunday morning regular time, except for this has been our traditional Christmas Eve. So this is how we have done it in all of the time slots that we have
Mhm.
done our Christmas Eve themed services since I've been here, at least, where we will have for infant only, like the littlest ones will have a space where we can care for them for you, and your elementary kids, meaning for your pre-K all the way up, will be invited to join us in the service, and it'll be a service with that in mind. It's a different length, different energy. all of it.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So if they're wearing a pamper or a pull-up, they can pull up in the family wing?
Absolutely, you can keep them too. By the way, it's your choice, but we wanted to provide that service for people for that. So I've
That's
realized
good.
we have not said that. We want to make sure we say that a lot too.
Hmm. That's good. So that's Christmas Eve, and so that's the deal. I guess with that said, we will sign off and see you guys on Sunday. Everybody have
right.
a great one, okay?
Ooh.
See you Sunday.
East Lake Community Church is an intentional, multicultural community empowered by the Holy Spirit. We passionately pursue a loving relationship with God and everyone Jesus was sent to die for, here, near, and far.